The project that I want to talk with you about today is called Greenwashing in the First Amendment, and as we state in the title, this is a project about greenwashing. What is greenwashing? It refers to a set of deceptive marketing practices, often by business firms, but other entities, governments, individuals can engage in greenwashing as well. The focus of this paper really is on the explosion in growth of green marketing claims by business firms. What we're most interested in is why should we care about greenwashing? Well, there are two primary reasons why we want to care about greenwashing, and this has to do with the effects of this potential misinformation in society. We all know that urgent action to address climate change is necessary, as well as other environmental considerations. But the question that greenwashing raises is whether we actually have an accurate picture of what's happening on the ground in the marketplace. And this can affect us in one of two ways, or possibly both. In the one sense, there can be spillovers for policy action. So if we think, for example, that private firms kind of have the situation covered, we may be less inclined to support public policy or regulation on the same subject matter. On the flip side, there may be a sense that some of us are convinced that if a private firm cares about a particular topic, if McDonald's or Exxon is undertaking action to address climate change, maybe I should care about it too. But there is research that shows that when firms make statements about their climate policies, that this does have implications for how supportive people are across the political spectrum in terms of public regulation. The second is that greenwashing can affect consumer choices within the marketplace. If I'm led to believe that product A is recyclable, when it isn't, I might be more likely to purchase product A than product B, which doesn't have a recyclable claim. And again, that can distort my consumer choices, and the consumer choices of many of us add up in the marketplace. We also may be convinced by something called the halo effect that a firm's other products are green if we learn about one product or one service or its energy use being green. So there are reasons to think that greenwashing distorts the marketplace. And so this raises questions about whether marketing claims are factually false. Sometimes they're factually false and it's clear. I'm putting on a certification that's completely fake. I'm making the claim that my product is recyclable when it's not. But sometimes there are much more difficult cases, and those cases are sort of deceptive or misleading, sleight of hand. I'm going to focus on my good environmental performance to distract you from my poor environmental performance on some other metric, or I'm going to focus on my good environmental performance to distract you from my poor performance on some other social metric, perhaps a labor question. And so there are these questions about, are these statements true but nonetheless misleading? And these issues matter. I'm a lawyer, so much like Mirka, why is there an economist here? Why is there a lawyer here? This raises questions about the extent to which these kinds of green marketing claims can be regulated consistent with the First Amendment. Now, it's very important to understand that there has been legal enforcement for many, many years at a number of different levels with respect to marketing claims that could be deceptive. There's enforcement at the federal level by the states. The EU is currently stepping into this space. There's private environmental governance, right? There are certifications to police whether claims are true. There's Twitter shaming. We can get into that. But the current issue on which this question is arising now in the United States is that the Securities and Exchange Commission has recently proposed a new rule that would require certain publicly traded firms to disclose their greenhouse gas emissions, as well as if they've made a plan to get to net zero, how do they intend to get there? What are your interim targets? Do you intend to use offsets, et cetera? Even though this is just a proposal pursuant to the regulatory process in the United States, people are allowed to comment on the proposal, so we don't have a final rule yet. But what we know is that a group of law professors has argued that this rule requiring disclosure of factual information actually violates the First Amendment. Now, our article disagrees strongly with that claim, and of course is correct. And so the animating question of the article is, to what extent can greenwashing be regulated consistent with the First Amendment? It is very important to know that you do not have First Amendment protection for every statement that you make. If you lie in court, Perjury, not protected under the First Amendment. You can't lie in court and say, no, 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 but I had a First Amendment right to finger the wrong person, right? You don't get that rule. Why? Because the court is informationally dependent upon witnesses for information to be able to make just decisions. In the same way, we as members of the consuming public are dependent upon firms for certain information about their operations, about their products, about their services. And as a result, we make the argument in this paper that the values that underlie the First Amendment to protect our participatory liberty in the marketplace and to make decisions about what kinds of activities we want to regulate requires our ability to be able to regulate certain kinds of commercial speech. And regulation in this case includes not only restrictions on certain kinds of statements, but also compelled speech along the lines of the SEC disclosure rules. And why is that the case? Our approach basically pushes back on sort of an effort to turn the First Amendment into an all-purpose deregulatory tool. But the implications of this, and this goes to Mirko's point, we want more factual information. So our approach suggests that more factual, truthful information by firms about their operations and about their products is desirable, is legally permitted pursuant to the First Amendment. So thank you very much, and I'm always happy to take questions.